Hello you guys and welcome back to today's review. Actually today we're going to be chatting about my experience working as a caregiver. About 7 years actually. I used to work in a place that used to be called Emeritus. That place went down. I guess they took over. They bought the whole chain of Emeritus of assisted living facility, and I stopped working for them. I started working with them first off because obviously I needed the money. Second of all, because I really love caring for people, and I have said it many times in many different videos. I have 4 sisters. One of them has a disability. She is incapable of eating by herself. She's incapable of going to the restroom and showering by herself. And that has been the number one priority of my mom and one of my sisters who live with her. And it is a very huge responsibility for someone, for anyone who is responsible. Currently, my mom is still taking care of my sister, as well as my other sister is still taking care of her. And it is a huge responsibility. She doesn't know how to talk. She has gone to the doctor many times because she developed epilepsy. She has to take medicine otherwise, and she would go into epilepsy attacks. And the reason why you guys are watching me this time, like very up close, is I just wanted to be very honest and real with you guys. I started doing this type of videos. The first one I did, it was my experience working at 7-Eleven. Then I went ahead and did my experience working at, I think it was called Sutherland. And then I have done my experience working at Clinique. And this time it is my experience working at Emeritus, like the caregiving facility. And I have to be honest with you guys. A lot of the times these experiences are not happy, are not positive. And I am just being truthful to myself. And I hope that you guys also understand where I'm coming from. It's not to bash anyone or anybody. It's just how I experience things, around my area, my surroundings, the people who I work with, and everything else. I love caring for family and friends to the point that me and my partner spent over 4 years taking care of my dad, who later on developed, how can I even put it in words? He started losing his memory. He developed epilepsy, and it was it was a difficult time. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Caring for somebody who you truly love, it is hard. It is super hard. And whoever doesn't go through the same issues and activities and anything else, it's just a very difficult, it is something hard to embrace. It is something hard to embrace, and I don't have the words to express myself and tell you guys what a difficult experience it is. I could potentially spend over 2 to 10 hours just explaining how hard it is. Not only is physically exhausting, and you have to physically be strong in order to help these families in need, but also it is mentally, and your health goes through a lot of things, and you have to, at least in my case, I had to put my dad first all the time before me. And as you guys know, I also have a compromised immune system. It's nothing that it is weird. It's not a hidden secret. It's just the way that it is. Growing up as a Latino child, as a Latino kid with my mom, living in Mexico. The Mexican culture does embrace a lot of caring for your parents. And in my case, my mom did make me aware that the children's, when they grow up, they have to take care of in any shape, way, or form of their parents. And in my case, I ended up taking care of my dad. which it was an experience that I definitely love, and I found out many good things about my dad, since I had never grown up with him. I had never, lived with him, and I never interacted with him. And I think I fell in love with the relationship more with my parents, how they met. It was a very beautiful experience, when it comes to embracing and caring for somebody who at some point, in my case, they gave their lives for my life and for my family. So long story short, going back to the Emeritus, or the caregiving facility, assisted living facility that I work with. Before I continue, I hope you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification button to stay notified, and also please share some love. Let me in the comments down below if you guys have any experiences like this. If you don't have them, that's fine. Everyone is different. Everyone experiences different things in life. And one of the reasons why I also wanted to do this video is because I was scrolling on TikTok. As you guys know, TikTok became very famous, and this video of this younger lady really triggered me, because I have experienced most of the stuff that she said in the video. I'm gonna post it right now, and I hope you guys can have the time to watch it.
Now that I don't work in a long-term facility, it's time to expose them. We were always overworked, with 30 for residents, and co-workers would get so stressed out and quit on the spot. I would find some of my residents' beds dripping in urine from not being changed since morning shift. Some of my residents would cry to me and tell me how glad they were to see me, since the other shift was extremely rude and ignored them all day. We never had the proper supplies we needed to take care of our residents. When COVID-19 hit, they would make us wear the same disposable mask for a month, and we never had proper PPE. There was 2 residents per room, and when one was COVID positive, they wouldn't test the other residents sharing the room and just left them there.
And since you guys have watched it already, I'm gonna jump into it right ahead. Working in a caregiving facility, at least in my experience, I worked very long hours. Sometimes I would work from 8 to 12 hours. Pay was really good, but you have to compromise yourself with the fact that you are developing a relationship with every single of your patients, your friend. You think of them as family, to be honest. I remember very well that I work in the night shift, so you get a little bit extra if you work overnight. And the reason why I work overnight is because, first of all, you don't have your bosses are not there all the time bossing you around, and you get to take care of other stuff rather than the daytime routine. My nighttime routine consisted in checking on every single patient, and also making sure that they would have taken their medicine, and then second, that they would have their laundry pulled, so you would take it to the laundry room and wash it. Sometimes you would take about 10 to 15 patients, and sometimes you would take just 2 to 5 patients. It all depends, and that was on a daily basis. So you get a lot of work. In my floor, I remember there were, like I said, 3 different floors. In my floor, it was always the 3rd one. And for some reason, we always had issues with there were 2 elevators, and there were always issues with the 2nd elevator that was in the back room where there was the laundry room, and it would always get stuck. And for some reason, it would always go up and down at night. Nobody knows, maybe someone was pranking me the whole time that I worked with them, and I never knew. First thing, you gotta go, also you have to go onto, there's like a huge, I wanna call it notebook, where you check all the activities that happened throughout the day. If the patient had vomited, if the patient needed anything, if family members visited the patient, if the patient was sent to the hospital, if the medicine had changed for the patient. You literally have, it's like a diary that you have to read every single day with the most important things that happened. So in my case, I would read that every single day, and then you just jump right ahead into your regular duties. You do have to interact with people. As you can tell, my gap age or my age gap is a little bit different. So back then, I think I was like 22, 23, and the patients that I was taking care of, they were like between 60s to 90s. Up to I think 103 was the oldest, the aging patient that was with us. Oh, the aging resident. That's what we used to call a resident. And I have to say, I have to be honest with you guys. It's a very, very difficult job. And the way that a lot of the times you lose your patients, you lose your residents, and you come back out of nowhere, they are gone. Or they are like, I remember a couple of times, I remember one specific, I came back, for my regular shift, and they were telling me this person he knows that he's gonna die, and this person is dying within the next 3 hours. And the person is still aware, maybe they have a heart condition, maybe they have a health condition, or maybe they're just connected to oxygen. They just don't want to go to, because even though the facility had still like their hospital, it was like a very minimal hospital, so you still have to send them to the regular hospital, and they have the intensive care unit. So a lot of the times, like in that case, I remember no one was allowed to go inside of the other patient's residence room, and it is a very difficult thing to process at the time, to know that inside of that room or inside of that home or that mini apartment, someone is dying, someone will be dead in the next couple of hours. And it is an insane thing to talk about, because life is so precious, and a lot of the times most of the time I took it for granted, and I think a lot of younger adults take it for granted nowadays, living with the current situation. And it's a very difficult thing to speak. I don't think I've ever said this. I've ever expressed my feelings about this, not even with Domel or my family or anyone in general. They do have like a ringer. I don't remember the name of it, but they would have like a pendant, and they would hit it if they needed any help. A lot of the times they don't hit the pendant, so if they fall and you don't check on them, most likely they could get injured, and that's on you. Luckily, that never happened to me, because I would always check daily. I would check hourly, for like every half an hour I would go and do my rounds. Some of them do get impatient with you. Some of them get irritated. And when I was talking to you about the different of age, a lot of them, they are older. So lots of them, they still believe in racism. Lots of them, they still believe, in sexism. And that's completely understanding, and I respected that. It's very important for you to understand that, because at the end of the day, it's part of your job to deal with that on a daily basis. And so if a female aging adult didn't want men inside of the room because whatever reason, you had to respect that, and you couldn't go inside of the room. That just was the way it was, and there is no ifs or whys or questions to be asked. I think the break point for me to stop working with this facility, it was that I started noticing that two of the other ladies who were friends, because they had become CNAs and they had gone to school together. They were really close friends. They most likely they would go to the third floor. Every single room had like their own break room for workers, and they would literally go onto my floor and they would chill there. And for some reason, somehow, somewhere, I don't know why, if you ask me, I only had my personal experience and a little bit of knowledge at the time of things that you get trained. And I guess I just didn't like the fact that someone like me was in that job, because the job paid very well at the moment. And I have to say, that they started kind of like ganging up on me. They were younger than me at the moment. Even though I was not 23, I think they were like younger, well, like way younger than me. I can't remember the age, but they were super, super young. They literally graduated from school and then jumped into their job. And the two of them, the two friends, gang up on me. And then another lady came back into the team, and somehow she went into the group. She they molded between each other, and they became really, really close friends. And I remember that for some reason, that like the hardest patients, the hardest residents that we would have, they would always send them to me. They'd be like, "Hey Felipe, I don't want to go to this room because this person is aggressive. This person is verbally abusive. This guy harassed us, and I'm not allowed to that." And here's the thing: because of there's so many violations that you can potentially get, like violations within your own job and everything else. You can't really ask that many questions. And when it came to me, we were understaffed as well. We expected more people to be in our team, but I guess they just didn't want to pay for it, or they didn't really care for it, or we were just doing the job. So they I guess they didn't feel that they needed the other caregivers or CNAs. In my case, I reported every single day, consistently, every single morning. Like I remember, I would leave almost 4 to 6 a.m. in the morning. I think it was 6 a.m. in the morning, or 7. It's been a long time now. And I would express everything to my supervisor and manager, and she was the person who actually hired me. And we were getting along very well. And for some reason, later on, I found out that she was very close to one of the two girls who I work with overnight. And this is gonna play out very interesting at the end of this video. I noticed that these two gals didn't really care for the patients very well. And when I actually, before I did this, jump into this video, I wanted to remember the exact name of the place. Again, I've said it in the very beginning of the video. And if you look it up, there's only one of those there was only one of those in California, at least in San Diego. And when I looked it up, I actually found pictures by someone who posted them, I think 4 years ago, about a resident that I actually also took care of him, which is kind of embarrassing. And then the resident had like how do you call this, bruises on his face, and he took pictures of cockroaches and the pipelines that the walls were wet, and his whole room was it was bad. If you look it up on Google, you probably find it. And a lot of the times people don't realize how much of one person can take care of. And what I mean by that is that one good caregiver is not going to be able to take care of like 100 patients overall. Excuse me. And I think for me, that was the break point. The fact that I was a really good caregiver, because I've done it for so many years. I don't want to say it's my passion, but I think it's one of my best skills to care for others. And when I noticed that one of these, you have to go and help this, other people's activities. If you have to help them lift, if you have to do if you have to do something. I noticed for some reason, I think I had a question, and I had walked into a room because they had told me they were inside of the room. One of these younger adults, one on each side of the bed were pulling. Excuse me, sorry. We're pulling from each side of the bed, and one of them pulled so hard that the patient, I think it was a 103-year-old patient, he bruised himself because he had a skin condition where if you even grab them, he would have like this issue that he would bruise. So when they pulled him out, his legs rubbed within each other, and he started bleeding. And they said, "Oh, we'll take care of it." They didn't take care of it until the end of their shift. And when I took this care into, thank you, baby. When I took this matter into my boss's concern, she told me at the moment, I think it was my last day before I took my days off. She told me she was gonna investigate the case. Oh, she was gonna start a case for investigation. Well, 2 days later, when I came back, everything was different. I don't know what had happened, but the morning shift was treating me differently. The night girls were not only mean, they were meaner. And I realized that they were caring poorly for every resident. I guess that, I don't know, I guess that took them for rebellious. I honestly didn't know what to do, and I remember at the moment I reached for HR, and I never got a response back. It was one of those things that you reach out for HR and you never get to hear the answer. And I told my manager, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. And again, keep in mind that I think it was one of my first and my only job that I actually did as a caregiver, and I would never do it again. And that's one of the reasons why I never took my dad's, and I would never take my parents. And I don't think I would ever, even if that was the issue for my boyfriend's parents, I don't think we would ever do that, just because I don't agree with the system that they have in order to care for someone. A lot of the times they give them very small portions. Like, again, portions are measured by everyone's age and, healthy issues or lifestyle or diets that every patient is gonna have, or every resident is gonna have. But I never agree with any of this, and people get mistreated. People get they may not raise their voices, but they may neglect them, and that's a huge issue to me. Like, if you neglect someone to the point that you're pretending not to hear them. And I remember I would see these issues almost every day with most of PM shift and night shift. There were only a few of them who really didn't do this. It was mind blowing. It was mind blowing, and like I said, you become, at least myself, I became so familiar with each face, familiar with each story, and every one of them tells you something different. Like, I remember one of them. I remember her. I don't even want to say her name because I didn't even know what had happened to her. But I remember most of my patients' names, and it's funny to think about it because I still every now and then, sometimes I wonder whatever happened to them, and I wish them to be well. It's just very interesting what we can find nowadays through TikTok and can push us to do things. And I just wanted to be honest with you guys. This is my experience. Would you ask, if you ask me right now, would you come back to work in a caregiving facility? I don't think I would ever do it. I don't think I agree with the service that most of them provide. And at some point in my dad's life, when he had a second attack of epilepsy, and the doctor realized that because of the alcoholism that he had developed throughout his whole life, and he explained to us that somehow his brain had become like smaller. In order for him to become a little bit better and stronger, he had to be in the ICU. And then out of nowhere, one day they told us that he had to be moved to a caregiving facility, which we would visit almost every day. And I noticed that instead of him being or feeling better, he was feeling a little bit more lost. He wouldn't recognize me. He was just like sitting on the chair or sitting or laying down and on the table, and he would just talk about random stuff. I decided to tell them, how I felt. We proceeded with paperwork, and I brought him back to home. And to be honest with you guys, he would help me cook. And I think I made videos about this. Like, he would sit with me while I was doing videos, and he, a lot of the times when you go back to my Indianapolis videos, he would literally just go and knock, and he would be like, "Hey, do you need anything? Hey, can I sit over here? Oh, hey, can I watch you?" Or I would just play, like, would like literally sit him down right next to me, and he would watch TV, because a lot of the times you would hear from all videos of mine in YouTube that I would do, he would be watching the TV, and you can hear the TV in the background. And he became so alert. He became so talkative. He would go on walks with me. He would, one time we went to walk in the middle of the snow, and somehow, like, literally, first thing I did, I fell on the ice of the frozen floor. And he said, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" And if you ask me right now, I don't think he would have ever done so well being in the assisted care living facility, or whatever you want to call it. I think a lot of the times, it's up to everyone. I'm not here to judge. It is a huge responsibility, and if Domel was here, he probably would agree. And it is something that you carry on your shoulders. So no, I wouldn't go back to working in that field, in the medical field, at least in that medical field. And you have to be very careful, very responsive. You have to be very alert. You have to have strength physically to move them. If they fall, you have to, or if they are trying to fall, you have to make sure that you're strong enough or stable. And if like they fall, you have to make sure you call right away 911. Hey, a patient just fell down, and they tell you don't move them, or if they try to go to the bathroom. Like, I remember a lot of the times patients would go around the whole a resident care facility, or the whole facility, and you would wonder how did this person, sometimes from other floors, they would literally go up and down. You would literally have them walking around randomly, and you wouldn't even know. And a lot of the times, most of them, they would watch TV, and I think that's one of the first times that I was introduced to I Love Lucy something, and the Golden Girls, because most of my patients would watch Golden Girls all the time. And what do you think, Mel? Do you think caring for somebody who is an aging adult like my dad was something easy?
No.
How would you rate that experience? Because you never had that before, right?
It's completely consuming. Like, it's time consuming, emotionally consuming. If you care for the person, like if you care for the well-being, it's consuming.
You have to take them to the hospital. You have,
they're your priority. They're like a newborn baby. And it's even more dangerous because if, for example, they fall because they want to be self-reliant, you could be blamed for negligence. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
No, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. My dad, like I said, he's Latino, and I think one of the times that we took him to eat, he was being super extra friendly. He was like saying this, holding the waiter's hand, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so beautiful, you're so gorgeous," in a flattering way or in a flirting way. And I just didn't feel comfortable, because you never really know if they understand that he's not there 100%. So it gets you in trouble.
And not only that, like when his physique was just very thin.
And he's always been very thin. Like, I have to tell you.
Very muscly, but he's very, very...
His whole life was...
just very skinny bone.
Like, fit. Yeah. Almost to a point.
Like a twink.
Yeah. And a lot of the times people think like, "Oh my gosh, is he...
underfed."
Yeah. And I have to tell you, on a daily basis, I would send videos to my mom and my sister, so they were aware that we were doing okay, that my dad never missed any meal, or that he was just doing good. I have talked about this experience before. I lost my dad for like 6 months, because this is just another story that you probably already know. But if you don't know, let us know in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to recreate it again for you guys for the 3rd millionth time. But going back to the main story about being in the caregiving facility, I just wouldn't do it. I don't think the base enough for how much effort you put into. I think you go through a lot of stuff. I think they usually understaff you. They usually don't avoid to give you your paid time off or your vacation time, because they want you to be there, because they don't want to hire more people. And to be honest with you, caregiving or assisted living facilities are so expensive. Like, I have no words to express how expensive it is to put someone you love into those facilities. It's mind blowing. I just would never do it. I would never encourage anyone that I truly love and care, and who's my friend. At least in Mexico, they rarely exist, or they exist and they are rarely there. So we never really use them. And when I find out that a lot of people here in the United States, they tend to, I realize that there's a lot of people. Even when I talk to Duhamel's uncle, he is a, oh my goodness, I can't find a word. He works in Duhamel funeral home. He works in a funeral home, and he told us one time he went to like a home of one of the persons who he had to go to pick up, and the older lady was there, and they had to call the cops because the lady had been laying down, I think, in on the floor with her cats for days, and so I guess she passed out. And living in the United States, it's such a blessing, and in a way it's also a learning curve experience, at least for me, to being a Mexican American, because at the end of the day, if you're not aware, Mexico and South America is still America. So I'm being a Mexican American, I just don't think we ever think about it. We have so many advantages and so many disadvantages at some level. And to me, if you ask me personally, the caregiving facilities, they definitely have a lot of work to do and to give update to, in order to fully comprehend what the patient, resident, and is going through. When it comes to the medicine, when it comes to their actual health, when taking the medicines, if they were diabetic or they had a heart disease, or they had like anything else related to health, they were well taken care of. However, when it comes to their food, if a resident would deny to be like, no, I'm not hungry, they would literally let it go for the first, maybe the second time too. The third time, they would try to bring like maybe a small pot of peaches or cut apples, but they were really not 100% there, because the caregivers take so much responsibility. Like, just taking somebody to the bathroom, sometimes it's not one person is not full enough to carry, or fully carry that person, so you have to call someone else to help you. So you're taking that somebody else from something else. And as I said before, being understaffed, it's a huge issue, and that happens a lot of the times. So that is my personal point of view when it comes to caregiving facilities. I just want to say thank you guys for watching, and if you guys love this series where I talk about my personal experiences of previous employers or previous jobs that I had, let me know in the comments down below. I have so much more to tell you guys, and if you guys want to hear more, let me know in the comments down below. Please subscribe to the channel, click the notification button to stay notified, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.